everybody, welcome to episode 48 of the Pins and Needles podcast. Big welcome to all my new viewers. Hello, and a very warm welcome to everyone who has been here before. For anyone that's new, my name is Zoe. I live on the coast in South Wales with my husband, my 3 kids and Jim the dog. What else might you need to know? We own and run a gym in Cardiff, so I'm also a personal trainer as well as a knitter. And I think that's probably about it. It has been quite a while since I've done a proper sit down, talk to you podcast. Things have just been super busy. So all I've managed is the vlogs that I've been recording with Jenny as we travel around going to various shows. So I was getting myself in a bit of a state trying to think about how I could get you all up to date, and things were just piling up and yeah, it was becoming a thing. So I'm just going to go for it. I've got everything set up. I've got my cup of tea. I've banned all of the family from the front room. So we're just going to dive in, I think. Do check the down bar below for the show notes. I will also put them up in the Ravelry group, just the Pins and Needles podcast group. I will try and remember to put timestamps down there as well if you want to jump between different sections. You can find links to all of the places you can find me online down there as well. You can also find links to the Knit Tea Retreat and to Cartref Yarn and to Jenny's Owl About Yarn Etsy shop. So all the information is down there. Admin first. I am an absolutely appalling person for having left it so late to award all of the prizes for the Newfangled make-along. This was a knit-along, make-along that started on the 1st of January. And I think the official finish date was the end of February, and it's now nearly the end of June. So I am so sorry it's taken me this long. Life has been insane, but I have drawn all of the prizes. And again, all the winners' names are down below, so if you miss it, I will try and ear burn everybody on Ravelry as well. So let's get cracking with that. First of all, I've got my laptop with my show notes down here. Okay, we've got 2 prizes for finished objects. And the first prize goes to post 187, who is Linda Dawn 64. And her new skill was spinning on a wheel for the first time, and from what I remember, she ordered it and assembled it herself and then created some beautiful yarns, and it was really interesting to watch her through that process. So well done, Linda Dawn 64. Your prize is this lovely skein of yarn by Goth Hearts Creations, and that was kindly donated by Linda, so thank you, Linda. Isn't that beautiful? Really nice. So get in touch with me, let me have your postal address, and that can be on its way. The second finished object prize goes to post 195, who is Batfink. Hello! She wins these 2 beautiful skeins of Noro yarn for her first attempt at 2-handed colourwork, and she knit a colourwork hat. And again, these were donated by the lovely Linda, and they really are beautiful muted colours. So Batfink, let me have your postal address and I will get those sent out to you. Okie dokie, I've got piles of stuff on my lap. Now, we also had prizes for participation. And Anita very kindly sent me a prize donation, and that goes to post 277, who is PurpleSnowdrop. And she tried Tunisian crochet for the first time and made some washcloths. So she wins this beautiful skein of Artesano alpaca yarn and a rather cute little cross-stitch kit of a hedgehog. So well done. I've got your address, PurpleSnowdrop, so I can get that out to you as soon as I can make it to the post office. And then we have one last prize for participation, and that goes to post 340, which is RachelRavenclaw. Hello, lovely lady. And she tried knitting socks on those tiny 9-inch circulars, which I think is a massive achievement. And lovely Candine who lives close to my mum back home, very kindly sent me this enormous packet of sewing patterns. And I know that Rachel sews as well. So Rachel, you can have your choice of several of these knitting patterns. There's loads. What I'll do is I'll take a picture of them all and I'll put it up in the make along thread, and you can pick 3 or 4 and I will post them out to you. But there's absolutely loads in here, and some really nice, like that one. There's some really nice top patterns on there, and oh yes, and that one I thought was nice, flowy summery trousers. So yeah, I will put those up and you can choose some and I will get them out in the post to you. So yes, apologies again everybody for being so terrible at drawing prizes. Thank you to Candine and Linda and Anita. Oh dear me, for all of the prize donations. I promise I will not run make-alongs again until I have improved my organisation. Right, let's shuffle along to finished objects, and I only have one. And this is a finished pair of socks for my dad. My dad loves my hand-knitted socks and he wears them faithfully. If I ever go home to visit my parents, or they come down to visit me, or even if we meet halfway for lunch somewhere, he's always wearing my hand-knit socks. And when we were at a yarn show last year, it's the one that's by Hitchin, I can never remember the name of it. Maria came to see Jenny and I on the stand and very kindly gave us a couple of balls of wool cotton blend sock yarn to try, and I'd never knit with it before. It's SuperGarne Aktiv. What's the percentages? 50% wool, 25% cotton and 25% polyamide. That's the brand, and this is colourway 7295. So these are the socks. It's just my standard 2x2 cuff down, heel flap and gusset. In terms of what it was like to knit with, it was a little harder than knitting with a pure wool or just a wool nylon blend. There certainly wasn't as much give in the yarn, and the way, I don't know if you'll be able to see, but the cotton is just one of the plies. I don't know if you can see. It's just one of the plies that's mixed in there. So yeah, it was a little bit harder on my hands than normal wool, but it was absolutely fine. The only problem I did have is that I ran out of yarn. Now this is 100 grams. How many meters? 100 grams gives you 416 meters, and I ran out of yarn. Now my dad has big feet. He's got UK size 11 feet, but I've knit him socks out of 100 grams of sock yarn before and had leftovers, although not very much. So maybe I just had a slightly lightweight ball, I'm not sure. But luckily, Maria also gave Jenny a ball in the same colour, and Jenny very kindly lent me enough yarn. She gave me her ball of yarn, and I got the second sock down to just before the toe. So I needed 2 rounds and a toe's worth of yarn to finish them off. And it's my dad's birthday. Well, it was earlier in the month, but he's having his family birthday get together next weekend. So I will take those up and give them to him then. Yeah, so there we go. Moving along to works in progress. I've only really got 2 to show you. Knitting time has really been an incredibly short supply, and I just didn't have the brain space for much of anything complicated, and I find starting a new project an enormous faff, and I just wasn't in the mood for tension squares and where are the needles and have I got to colour in the pattern. So I have been plugging away on my Tegna. Now I'm sure you've seen a million of these before. This is the Tegna pattern by Caitlin Hunter of Boyland Knitworks. And I was hoping to have got this finished for the summer Knit Tea Retreat. For any new viewers, my friend Jenny and I are the co-founders and organisers of the Knit Tea Retreat, and we hold knitting retreats in Cardiff and Stratford-on-Avon. So the Cardiff ones are in October and they're always workshop based, and then the summer ones, which was just in June, was up in Stratford-on-Avon, and that was just a big sit and knit. And I was really hoping for a nice summer top to be able to wear there, but I had a bit of a drama. It's bottom up and it has this beautiful lace pattern, and I twisted the cast on and I didn't notice until I'd knit something like 14 rows of lace at over 400 stitches around, and I was really cross. So I ripped that out and ignored it for a week, and then I cast it back on and it went absolutely fine. The lace is absolutely beautiful. It's not complicated lace at all. You do have to knit 4 together, and because I chose to do it in linen with 0 stretch, that was a bit of a challenge, but otherwise the yarn is absolutely beautiful. Where did I put the tag? I was using Lithuanian linen, which is 100% linen yarn. It's a heavy lace, light fingering, in the colourway 9.4, which is Avoacdo, and I bought it from lovely Estelle of Midwinter Yarns. Yeah, so I've got as far as finishing the body. I've done the neckline. You pick up and knit just stocking stitch and it does this nice roll. All I've got left to do is pick up for the sleeves, knit those and bind them off. And my goal is to have this finished in time for Yarningham in July. Jenny and I are going to sell Owl About Yarn and Cartref Yarn at Yarningham, one of our favourite shows, and it's often incredibly hot. Just the way the weather has fallen out every year since they've started, it's been really, really hot, like heat wave hot. So a nice cool linen top will be just the ticket. If you can see a slight line here, can you see just along here? It's the same dye lot. I think Estelle buys this linen yarn in on big cones and then skeins it off for you. But because the yarn was so much lighter, it really is a heavy lace weight, really. I had to do, I did a tension square, and I ended up knitting several sizes larger. Is that the right way around? Yes, I think I knit the penultimate size to give me what would have been 2 sizes smaller if I'd used proper fingering weight yarn. And everyone knows that swatches lie. So I decided what I would do is I would knit as far as the separation for the armholes, and then I would just roughly block it to make sure that it came out the correct size, or at least a size that would do, because I knew that the lace was stretchy, and if this stocking stitch section had been not quite wide enough, it wouldn't have been a problem to just rip it back and go up a needle size or something like that. But it worked out fine. So that's why you can see this difference at the top section here, because this hasn't been blocked. And it's actually quite interesting to see how much the stitches settle. Can you see the difference there? And how much drapier and smoother the fabric is at the bottom. Oh, just knocked my microphone off. Hang on a second. You can tell I haven't done this for a while. Yes, so in the end, it came out not as oversized as the pattern suggests, which is what I wanted. And you can see that the neckline isn't as wide. It's really quite a boat neck on the pattern, and I wanted it to come in a little bit. I do need to do some double checking for the sleeves. A lot of people have said that the sleeves are quite tight. This body is oversized and the sleeves are supposed to be slim fitting. And I do a lot of weightlifting. So my arms are considerably larger than most people's, and they're certainly larger than my size allows for in the pattern. So now that I can be confident of what my stitches per inch is, because I've got that information from the body, I can check the stitch counts for the sleeves and finagle it I might pick up a few more stitches and not bother with the decreases. And because I'm tall, I've also got quite broad shoulders. So when I try it on, the body, sort of there's a slight, the body becomes part of the sleeve and it's about here on me. But if you look at other people, the sleeve line is actually almost halfway down their bicep. So I've already lost an inch of depth there. But I've got plenty of yarn and I'm not afraid to rip things out. So I'll do some maths and get cracking with that. What else is next? Oh, my socks. My lovely socks. I'm going to pinch the sock blocker from my dad's socks. I've been knitting these for a while and they're so much fun. It's one of those things you'll be sad when you finish knitting it, you know. These are, and I'm sure you recognise it, the Pebbles and Pathways socks. And this is a pattern by Marceline Smith, who is at Hey Brownberry and who also has her own podcast, which I have linked down below. And I'm knitting these in the Knitting Goddess, British Blue-Faced Leicester and Nylon 4-ply in the colourway Ghost. Now I bought this from the Edinburgh Yarn Festival last year. And once I've knit this up, I will have used up all my EYF yarn, so that's a nice feeling. This pattern is toe up, which is not my standard. I haven't knit toe up for absolutely years and I was a bit nervous about it, but I trusted in Mars and Mars delivered. Yeah, and it's just a really, really fun knit and it's very easy to get the repeat in your head. So my fingers just can fly along. I did make a small mistake. I think when I was doing my increases for the toe, I did one more set of increases on one of my needles than the other. So I've got 2 more stitches on the back, I think. But it doesn't make any difference whatsoever. And I absolutely love the way that this twisted stitch section continues all the way up. So that's how far I've got with the first one. That's finished. Oh, I'm in a tangle. And I've just started increasing for the gusset on the second sock. I'm knitting these on my Chow Goose 2.25mm, which is my preferred sock needle, and magic loop for this one. I do get ladders if I use double points, although double points are my favourite. So if I'm knitting something that's got stocking stitch in it, I always use magic loop, but if I've got a lace pattern or a rib where the pattern will hide any ladders, I go straight for my DPNs. And I've got to get a crack on with my Christmas knitting. I have people that will be expecting socks and I'm absolutely going to choose patterns based on being able to use double points. So yes, Pebbles and Pathways socks. I will be sad when they are over. Next up is my sewing section. Now what I did for my sewing section was record me making something. I thought that might be a bit more interesting. And I recorded it back in March and it's been sat on my phone for all of this time. So I will hand you over to Past Zoe, who will talk you through a top that I made for my mum. Hi. I thought for my sewing section, I'd actually do some sewing and talk you through what I'm doing and film little clips as I'm doing it, because otherwise I'm never going to sew anything. I've got after the habit, and so suddenly sewing everything seems like too much trouble and far too scary, and I'm bound to muck it up. But it was Mother's Day a couple of weeks ago, 2 weeks ago now, in the UK at least, and I was looking forward to spending it with my mum, but she was away for the weekend with some friends. She likes dancing, and a couple of times a year she gets on a coach with all of her friends from her dancing classes, and they go and stay in nice big hotels with proper sprung wooden dance floors, and they have a weekend of tons of fun. So her most recent one came on Mother's Day weekend. So we sent each other a message saying, hurrah, happy Mother's Day. And we decided we'd celebrate later. And it's taken me 2 weeks. So fortunately, my mother is very relaxed about celebrating things on their official day. which is a characteristic I've inherited as well. So I have a card, and my sewing project is for my mum's present. Okay, so for a very long time I have had the Mandy Boat Tea pattern printed out. This is a free PDF download by Tessuti Patterns, Tessuti Fabrics. So if you just search on the internet Tessuti Mandy Boat Tea, you'll find it no problem whatsoever. It is a super simple pattern. It's not quite a drop shoulder, but it very nearly is. There's some very slight shaping. Make it in a jersey fabric. And as you can see from the lady on the front, it's a drop shoulder and then a 3/4 sleeve at the bottom. There is only one size for this pattern. Oh, there's Dave. He's gardening at the moment. Yeah, it's one size fits all. It says oversized boxy top with a boat neckline, 3/4 fitted sleeves with drop shoulders. Make it in cotton, wool, viscose and linen knits. So it's one size fits all. You need 1.1 meters of fabric if it's 140 centimeters wide. The finished width around the bust is 58 inches, which is 148 centimeters, and 23.5 inches from centre back neck for the length. Because it's so easy, because it's just such a simple shape, you can size it up or down if you wanted to, using seam allowances or just, you know, tracing out the pattern. But yes, a finished bust circumference of 48 inches will be a lot of positive ease, and it's supposed to be, you know, a very casual version. So there we go. So that's what I'm going to make. The instructions, I mean, they've got video, nice colour pictures, very simple instructions. And what's quite interesting is that the pattern pieces, and I think I'm right in saying that all Tessuti patterns have this, no, that's upside down. They all are hand drawn. They haven't computerised them, you know, into standard font. So I quite like that. It looks like, I don't know, for some reason it makes it feel more approachable. So that's the sleeve. One large piece for the front, cut on the fold, and one large piece for the back, cut on the fold, and they do mark on the pattern where you can lengthen or shorten it. So what I'm hoping is that I have enough of the fabric I'm going to use for 2 of these tops, because I'd quite like one too. But I'm a bit concerned that for me, the arm circumference will be a bit snug. So I'm going to make one exactly as per the pattern, which will be for my mum. And then I can try that and see where I get to. Fabric. Let me make sure I hold this the right way up. I don't think there is a right way up. So this is a beautiful jersey knit that I've had in my stash for a while, and it was a gift from a friend, and it's just so beautiful. I haven't wanted to use it, but I think it's going to really suit the Mandy Boat Tea because it is such a simple shape. You know, you can really enjoy the fabric that you choose. Can you see? There's a toucan, and there's butterflies, and all sorts. It's absolutely stunning, this fabric. So I think I've got 2 meters of it, and you need 1.1 meters for the pattern. So I'm hoping that with some careful pattern layout, I can get away with it. And also it does look really quite long on the pattern. My mum is about 5'6", so she's not short, but with a bit of luck, I could maybe take an inch. I could maybe shorten it an inch, perhaps, to get away with it. We'll have to see. But that's the plan. So I will try and change the camera setup so you can see me having a go at making the pattern. Fingers crossed, eh? Okay, so all my pieces are cut out now. When I cut pieces out, I always fold them up with the paper pattern piece in there as well, so you get a sandwich. I'm always nervous of stretching fabric out, and I find that keeping it wrapped up with the paper gives it just a little bit more support. This is the sleeve piece, and I thought I would quickly show you my pattern weights. I used to use tins of tuna or chopped tomatoes or whatever I had on the kitchen shelf, but my mum kindly gave me some really lovely paperweights. This one looks like a sea anemone, so now I use these. If I need more than 3, I get the tuna tins out as well, but look at that. Really lovely blue colour. So these just sit on my mantelpiece until I need them. But aren't they lovely? So there we go. That's how I cut all of my pieces out. So what I need to do now is decide if I'm going to use my overlocker to make this up. I haven't used my overlocker for a long time because it scares the pants off me, and also one of the needles broke, so I need to replace the needles and see if I remember how to use it. But I can zigzag stitch this if I need to, but I think I'm going to be brave and just spend 5 minutes seeing if I can get my overlocker working. And also I'm out of tea, so back to the teapot, I think, because there is no making anything without a decent beverage. Okay, so I've dug out my overlocker. I'm afraid the window is right behind my sewing nook, so the lighting isn't going to be amazing. But yes, this is my Toyota full thread overlocker, and there's all the scary bits inside. And as you can see, oh, wrong bit, I've only got 1 needle. So I've dug out my instruction manual, and I've got one of these, the TX ones, and I found the instructions for changing the needle. It came with this little box of bits. So I've got a little screwdriver, spool caps and nets, a bit of machine oil there, and 2 packets of needles, but they don't say on them why they're different. But down here it says number 14/90. So I'm going to go with these ones because it actually says 14 on it, and I'll tuck those back in the box. I also thought I'd show you my little sewing notions. This dish used to belong to my grandma, and when we were clearing out her flat, I thought it would just be nice for putting my sewing things in. And I usually have it this way around because this curled edge is just perfect for holding it. So I always have a tube of my sashiko needles, tulip needles. I bought these from Grace of Beyond Measure. These bent-nosed tweezers came with the overlocker. They are essential for threading my overlocker, but seriously handy for all sorts of other things, including sewing, threading my normal sewing machine. So those are always in there as well. I've got my seam gauge. This is super handy. I think it's Merchant and Mills, but it's super cheap. I have my Wilkinson sword snips, and as you can see from the marks on the blade, I'm pretty sure one of my kids has used these for something other than sewing, so I need to remind them about the rules. And then this is an absolutely brilliant unpicker. So it's got a nice ergonomic squidgy handle on it. It's nice and wide, and if I can try and do it one-handed, you can clip the lid on the end, and if you've got larger hands like me, it's actually really comfortable to hold. So with all of my sewing, this gets quite the workout. I've also, for some reason, got my stretch twin needle in here, so that'll come in handy for later. And a teeny tiny bottle of Motivate Roll-On Essential Oil Blend from Jenny. So all of these things are always in this dish. I might add some other things depending on the project. And then that always just sits on the edge of my sewing table, and I always know where everything is. Right, changing needles. I can do it. Okay, I have successfully managed to change the needles on my machine. And this is a bit of scrap that I was using just to practice because it's been such a long time since I've used it. And I just wanted to show you the benefits of having a go. Now, can you see on this one that the threads are actually right off the edge of the fabric, and they're even worse here. So I wasn't too sure what was causing it. If I turn it over, this one's getting a bit better here, and it turned out to be something called bite length, which I'd never heard of. So if I open up the guts of my machine, this bit here is my stitch length, so I've got it on about 2.5, and this dial here adjusts the bite length, and I think that means the actual position of the blade, which is here. So by turning this knob, I think it moves the blade in or out, and this handy marker here points to where it is. So I've actually ended up with this on 6, and it was on about 4.5, and it was literally just faffing around with that. And I think because this is quite a fine jersey fabric, I needed to alter that, but it's looking reasonably tidy now. I'm not sure if that was my final piece or not. No. This is my final piece. That's looking, I mean, still not perfect, but this bit at the top is looking okay. And if I switch it over, not brilliant, but in the interest of actually sometimes done is better than perfect, I think I might crack on. But yeah, you can see why people are intimidated by overlockers. Good grief. Hi everybody, it is actually a full week later. It is now Saturday of the following week, and all I managed to get done after the last time we spoke was setting up both of my machines ready to go. Today I've got to head out to IKEA with Conrad and Dave to buy Conrad a birthday bed, but nobody else is up yet. I've been up since about 6:10 this morning, and I had a nice cup of tea and a bit of a sneaky knit, and still nobody else is awake. So I thought maybe now's an opportunity to at least get the neckband seams sewn down on this top. Mum is coming down on Tuesday of next week to stay for a couple of days over the Easter holidays and help me out with a few bits and pieces. So I really need to get it done. Quick word about the background. All of this is Cartref Yarn stock. I'm running out of places to put things, so I'm piling them in corners. And you can see behind me on my mantelpiece, I have all sorts of crafting bits and pieces, so that's the background. Okay, so the first instruction is turn the front and back necklines and pin 5/8 of an inch towards the wrong side of the garment, and then I have to twin stitch that on my sewing machine. So I should probably get a move on with it, shouldn't I? Okay, I've pinned the necklines, and in case anybody wasn't actually sure how you use a seam gauge, this red section slides up and down, so you can set it to whatever seam allowance you need. And let me just check, 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 5/8 of an inch. So when you're folding over a hem, you can just place it on top of your work and say, yeah, that's spot on, or no, it's not. And it's just a bit easier than faffing around with a tape measure. So here it is folded over on the wrong side and pinned. And here it is from the other side. Now I need to give these a bit of a press because I'm not sure if it's puckering and I've mispinned it, or if a quick steam will sorting that out. So to the ironing board, and then hopefully I can at least get the neckband down, and all of the rest is overlocker. So doesn't that look better? I didn't do any smoothing motions, I literally just pressed it with the iron, and I've already done this one. That's just not lying quite flat on the ironing board, but yeah, Much better. I think I'll get a tidier result when I top stitch after pressing it. Okay, I forgot to record this last bit, but I have overlocked the sleeves, not the sleeves, the top of the shoulders, and I don't think that's, I mean, it's not brilliant, but I think that's pretty good, all things considered. And what I have to do now is set in the sleeves. So you do that by opening the fabric up, still being careful not to stretch things. Not sure if you can quite see this. Yeah, I think that's okay. Put my pins up there. And then grab a sleeve piece. Now obviously the sleeve needs to end up this way up. So for pinning it in place, you flip it the other way up so it's right sides together, and then you can match the center line down to the edges. So I'll have a go at pinning that. There we go. So I always start by pinning it at the top by the shoulder seam and then at the edges, and then I just mark out a few pins in between. There's very little shaping to this sleeve cap, so there's almost no easing in to be done. So that was pretty quick. Okay, I've set the sleeves in. I think they look reasonably tidy. Now, when I go back to the instructions, this is the step I've just done. The next thing it wants me to do is basically pin down the sleeve and the side seam and overlock it all together. And then after that, it wants me to do the sleeve hem. If I do it in that order, so do the sides and then do the sleeve turn up, I'm going to end up with a very narrow bit of sleeve to do on my sewing machine with the twin needle, which is possible, but I would worry about stretching the fabric, and I feel it would be less, it would be easier to muck it up if I did it that way. So I'm going to swap the order of these around. So I'm actually going to turn up my sleeve hem flat. So I'm going to open this back out like this. I'm going to turn up my sleeve hem and I'm going to twin needle it flat. Then I will come back to this step and whiz down the side seams, and hopefully that will be a bit more manageable. It means shuffling my machines around. This is my sewing table and I don't have enough space to have them both side by side. So when I finish with one machine, I have to unplug it and do a bit of a push me pull you, but that's okay. Next steps. Okay, I have turned the cuffs, twin needled them. There you are, look, that's not so bad. And then I've pinned all the way down the sleeve and all the way down the body, both sides. So now I just need to get you set up in the right position so you can see what I'm doing. And we can chunter our way. Hang on a sec, my legs are wobbly. Oh. Okay, so we're good to go with the overlocker now. Just need to make sure I've got the right foot pedal. And there's much rummaging under the desk at the moment, which you can't see. I just clunked the ironing board. Okay, here we go. Okay, I've done the hem, and the last little thing I have to do is this bit here, where you sort of take almost a dart in to give you this nice edge on the neckline at the end. So I've marked how far down I want to start. I've set my seam gauge to 1.5 inches, and then it's just a question of chalking this out. So I think like that. And then I can use my tailor's chalk to mark that in. Whack it through the sewing machine, give it a press, and I'll show you the finished object. Hi, it's now 11:10 on Monday night. I ended up having to work all Sunday, so I didn't manage to get the top finished. I lie. I finished the hem on the bottom, but I failed to catch it with my twin needle in a couple of places. So I put it aside and got on with work. So tonight I have ripped the hem out, turned up an inch hem and sewed it at 5/8 of an inch. And then that's given me a decent hem. So I'm sorry that the light is terrible. Hopefully I will get a chance to take some pictures at least in daylight tomorrow after I've given it to my mum. But she's coming down tomorrow afternoon. And I have to be at work at 6:30 a.m, so it had to be finished tonight. Anyway, I'll switch the camera around and you can have the best possible shot I can give you of the finished object for now. And there it is. I'm actually rather pleased with it in the end. So there's my twin needle top stitching. I have had, I think they call it channeling, just a little bit of channeling so that in between the stitches is a little bit raised. And I'm not sure if that's quite right on the inside, but it pressed out beautifully. And there are those nice drop shoulder sleeves. Excuse my terrible wall decor. And oh, there's a few loose ends in there. So you can see, hopefully, what a large boxy shape it is. It's going to drape beautifully. And here is my newly finished hem. So yes, I turned it up a full inch and then hemmed it at 5/8 of an inch. And then I just went back round and trimmed the seam allowance down at the end. And I really, really hope that my mum likes it. Or at the very least, she will be too polite to tell me that she doesn't. So there we go. Happy Mother's Day, Mum. Heading on to acquisitions, and I've got quite a few that I've either been given or that I've bought, but I've split them up into 2 lots. I'll show you some this time and some next time, or we'd just be here forever. And nobody really likes an acquisition parade. So I have my lovely basket full of things. Okay, first up is something that I purchased, and it's from Yarnisty, who I will link down below, and it is my Balls to Brexit pin badge. I'm sure you are aware of the absolute shambles that is politics in Great Britain at the moment. The Conservative Party seems to be disintegrating into some sort of childish spat, and goodness knows we're feeling the ill effects of it. So yes, I bought a Balls to Brexit because I am not a fan, and I wear this with pride at all of my shows that I go to. Next up, something that I've had for a while, but I just haven't managed to show because I haven't been podcasting. And I have received my first ever gifted pair of hand knit socks, and I was really quite struck of a heap. These were knit for me by Jackie. Jackie is someone that Jenny and I know through shows and has become a friend, and she came on our first ever knitting retreat last October, and she's tons of fun and completely insane, and we love her very much. And as a thank you for organising the retreat, she made Jenny and I a present, and mine was this beautiful pair of socks. Now Jenny and I each designed a knitting pattern for the retreat attendees, and Jackie very cleverly interpreted Jenny's pattern into some socks for me and interpreted my pattern into a finished object for Jenny. So these are my socks, and they've got some sort of slightly offset ribbing here, and then can you see the diamond zigzags there? And they're just the most sparkly. Can you see the sparkles? Sparkly, beautiful colour. I'm not sure if this is Jenny's yarn or not, but I love the colour, and they have been keeping my feet warm. So thank you very much, Jackie. I was very, very touched because I have enormous feet. There's a lot of knitting in these. Next up, what shall I show you next? Oh, I went to go and see. No, I didn't. I'm sure I've mentioned it on here before, Ange, who runs my local yarn shop, Yarn and Yarns in Penarth, and she also has a lovely podcast that I enjoy watching, which I've linked down below. And she runs a bricks and mortar shop, but she doesn't yet have a website. So when she gets new yarns in, she puts them up on her Instagram account, and she's very good at it because it makes me want to go and buy the yarn. Now, anyone that has been watching for a while might remember that I knit a faux fur cowl back at Christmas time because Ange put this yarn up on her Instagram account. I was like, oh my God, I didn't know I needed that. And she did the same again. And I am a sucker for opal sock yarn. I really like sturdy German sock yarn, and I just love the colours that opal does. And the Claude Monet range has been particularly popular. And I managed to resist the first batch that Angela bought, and she sold out quite quickly. So I thought, oh, you know, got away with that one. And then she got more in, and I almost drive past. It's only a detour of about 5 minutes on my way home from work, and I accidentally went in and bought loads of yarn. So I bought these 3 from the Claude Monet range. And aren't they absolutely stunning? And hopefully you can you see the, yeah, you can see the artwork on the front of the label, so the paintings that they are inspired by. So this purple and green one is colour 9687. This one is 9682. And this one is 9684. And I just can't decide which one I love the best. But aren't they just the most beautiful? So when I was in there grabbing this yarn before anyone else had a chance, and she said, oh, there's actually a ball of opal in the sale basket. So of course I went and bought it. It must be quite an old one because it's got their old label on it. And this is colour 2085, and I'm assuming it will just knit up as a sort of a multi sock. But I thought that would be really nice for man's socks, probably for Dave for Christmas. So yeah, I thought maybe if I find some sort of ribbing based pattern, again, I can do that on DPNs and that will be fabulous. So yes, lots of sock yarn. I bought this not long after we got back from the Edinburgh Yarn Festival, because I went to Edinburgh Yarn Festival and didn't buy a single skein of yarn. And I was feeling quite proud of myself, and then I fell down horribly in the opal basket at Yarn and Yarns, for which I blame Angela. Oh, also speaking of Angela, she very kindly gave me, is that going to focus, a Knitworks pin. Now this is, again, Marceline of At Hey Brownberry, and Maker's Merch is her badge company, which has sadly now closed down. She does have a different brand of pins which are fabulous, so you should investigate those. So you might still be able to find these in the odd local yarn shop, but I don't think they're any longer available. And yeah, Ange very kindly gave Jenny and I one of these each, which is nice. And on the theme of pins, Jenny bought me an everyday, that's not going to show up, is it? An everyday knitter pin. And Everyday Knitters is a Facebook group which is run by Louise Tilbrook. And I've been a member for ages and I always keep up with the posts, but I never actually participate, which is bad. I just have so much social media going on. I have to choose where I spend my time. But I really should participate more because they're a really lovely bunch of knitters in there. So yeah, I've got 3 new pins. And now that I've shown you, I can put them on my project bags. Next up, again, when we were at Wonderwool, which was back in April, that's the main wool show in Wales. It's held in Builth, Wales, it's in the Royal Welsh Showground actually. And quite a few people that we know go there, including lovely Sally. And Sally bought me a little tiny bottle of homemade sloe gin and this super fuzzy mini skein of hand spun. I think basically it's got some of every sort of fibre known to mankind in there. And it's so soft and squishy. So that's going to go in my scrappy sock blanket. And also from Sally and from Jeanette, I'm going to have to make sure I get these right. Okay, they each bought Jenny and I a set of stitch markers, and they both came from Chapel View Crafts, who is based in Wales. I think she's based in Merthyr Tydfil. And you can find her as at Chapel View Crafts, I think, on Instagram. And Jeanette, Jenny and I always take picnics with us to shows, either for eating on the road or for when we're actually selling, because it can be hard to get off the stand to find time to get food. And it's also really expensive and you have to queue for ages. So we always make a picnic, and I've got into the habit of making Welsh cakes. And I ran out of time for Wonderwool Wales and I was sad that we didn't have Welsh cakes. But Jeanette had bought us both some Welsh cake stitch markers. Aren't they beautiful? So sweet. So I did get Welsh cakes at Wonderwool after all. Thank you, Jeanette. And then let me twiddle these the right way around. I'm sorry if you can hear my children in the background. I usually podcast when they're away, but I haven't managed it. And then Sally, as well as the skein of yarn and the gin, gave me these. So we've got a party ring, which are my favourite biscuits, a jammy dodger, and a little spotty cup of tea. So those are really lovely. And because they're polymer clay, they're really quite lightweight, which is nice. They won't drag on your knitting stitches. So yeah. So thank you very much, ladies. Those are lovely. And like I said, Chapel View Crafts. I can't remember if I've linked to them down below. I might have done. Yes, I did. Well done past me. So that's Chapel View Crafts. I've been looking forward to putting those on my knitting. I've not been using all sorts of things until I show you lot first. And then last but by no means least, I was given 2 patterns as a gift, again by Mars. I don't know what I've done to deserve such good friends, but she sent me the boxy and the worsted boxy patterns. So these are patterns by Joji Locatelli. I'm sure you're familiar with them. And they are just really lovely wearable sweaters, and I really need to knit some more garments. And she wasn't sure how much time I'd have available to knit these, which is why she sent me the worsted version as well, in case I needed them now and would be doing it in a thicker yarn. So I've got some, I'm going to go for the fingering weight version because I think that's fingering weight sweaters are a really good, sensible choice. And I think once I've finished my Tegna, I might cast that on. It is acres of stocking stitch, which is absolutely my happy place. So thank you very much, Mars. You are lovely. That's it for the acquisitions. On to chat. So if you're only here for the crafting, thank you very much for watching. And if anyone else is interested in hearing about what I've been up to, feel free to stick around. So yeah, if you've been following me for a while, you will know all about Cartref Yarn. And that's mine and Jenny's own brand of Welsh DK yarn that we launched at Wonderful Wales at the end of April. And if you watch my Wonderful vlog, which is the last video on my channel, I talk about it a bit more there. But basically, Cartref means home in Welsh, and we wondered where all the Welsh yarn had gone. There's so much sheep and wool in Wales, but you never see Welsh yarn. So we decided to do it ourselves. And we bought fleece from the Brecon Depot, and we took it down to be spun in Carmarthenshire, and then we dyed it ourselves. So yes, we launched that at the show in Wales, and then we launched it online in early May, and the response was fantastic. We've very nearly sold out now. And the next opportunity to buy Cartref yarn will be at Yarningham in July. And if we have any left, it will be at Fibre East as well, also in July. So that's kept us super busy. I mentioned earlier that we held our first ever summer retreat. That was the 1st and 2nd of June in Stratford-on-Avon. And that was absolutely wonderful. I did a vlog for that. So, oh yeah, no, the retreat vlog is the last one. So if you're interested in finding out more about that, do go and give that a watch. But that was tons of fun. And if anyone's interested in coming to the October Cardiff Retreat, I think we have a couple of spaces left on the waiting list, and there's links down below to the website where you can sign up. Other than that, what else have I been up to? Oh, we had a leaky kitchen tap, and Dave and I decided we would try and fix it, and ended up without running water or electric in our kitchen for almost a week, which is not good, not with a family of 5. And I ended up with my kettle and my microwave in the dining room, and the fridge was running off an extension cable, and I was washing up in a bucket filled from the shower. So it was not the great week, but it was eventually sorted. But poor old Dave spent several hours on his back inside the kitchen, underneath the kitchen sink in the cupboard there, desperately trying to sort it out, while I was gripping swan neck tap attachments at the top, and the poor old sod got waterboarded about 6 times. But we got there in the end, so we now have new taps, sort of, and running water, and everything's dried out enough that we could switch the electric back on. And we got to go out for dinner last night. Dave and I celebrated our 18th wedding anniversary. It's today actually, but today is Sunday, so we celebrated on the Saturday. So yeah, married for 18 years, together for 21 years. So we went out for a nice dinner in Cardiff. And that's about it really. I've had a pretty busy time at work. I worked for nearly 2 weeks straight without a day off. This is my first weekend off in a while, which is why I finally managed to find the time to podcast. Anyway, thank you very much for bearing with me. Hopefully normal schedules will resume back to a 2-weekly recording schedule. Don't forget that if you won a prize, keep an eye out in the Ravelry thread for an ear burn and give me your details. If you enjoyed watching, please give me a thumbs up and click subscribe. And fingers crossed, I will be back in 2 weeks. I'll see you soon. Bye.